Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Special Committee of Council at the date of 26th of May 2021 of the Mansfield Shire Council. I'd like to welcome everyone that's in the chamber tonight and certainly welcome all those online who are watching. Particularly warm welcome to the guests we have today, 4 deputations at the moment with another one still to come. So welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to councillors. Welcome to the Madam CEO, Michelle Kane, our Head of Governance, Andy Kindersley, our Acting Head of Communities and Corporate Services, Kirsten Alexander, who's our Director of Infrastructure and Planning, Mandy Snell, who's running the show over at the back, and Ravi, who's also running the show over on the left. So welcome to everyone. As our first requirement of the meeting is just to our statement of commitment for the councillors. So if I could ask all the councillors to stand, and then we will read the statement of commitment. As councillors of Mansfield Shire, we are committed to ensuring the standards set by the Mansfield Shire Council Code of Conduct and Council Charter. We will at all times faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is just the Acknowledgement of Country, decided by our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Tim.
Our meeting is held on the lands of the Taungurong people, and we wish to acknowledge them as traditional owners. We would also like to pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today.
Thanks, Councillor Tim. Are there any apologies from the CEO?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Sladden is an apology tonight.
Yeah. Disclosure of conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest, councillors?
No conflicts of interest.
No conflict of interest. No conflict. And I have no conflict of interest either. Tonight's meeting is all about the budget submissions and the presentation of the budget submissions. We've had, I think, 26 or 29 submissions.
Yes, 29.
28. And we have 4 submissions tonight. We have deputations from Mr Tony Tan, from Mr Tom Condon, Mr Wes Mudge, Mr Will Twycross. I think if we start with Tony Tan, and Tony, just please, just it's a 3-minute presentation. And at the end of that, councillors will ask any questions that they have, but if you can keep it to the 3 minutes, that'd be terrific.
Good. Thank you, Mr Mayor and CEO and councillors and staff. Thanks very much for allowing us to speak today, but my address is mainly in support of the budget. I think the council have done a pretty good job in certain areas. Certainly, I think the support of the truck bypass is most important. I think we don't want B-doubles and other trucks rumbling through the town. I think it's just a disaster. So very briefly, I support that and support the loan that you're going to get to have that completed. I think it's pretty visionary to do that, and it will be important for future generations. Particularly good at times of low interest rates. I strongly support the rate differential, especially in the farming area. I think it's most important that farmers are able to live on, produce on productive and good farming land. And certain areas of the state, farmers have really been having to sell their farms because the rates are so high. In areas around Bendigo, enormous pressure on farmers there. You know, you hear of $50,000 and $60,000 rate bills, which I think is just eye-watering. Anyway, I congratulate the Shire on looking after the farmers. Important for the immunity of the town, that people get that vision of agriculture and good farming land. Just briefly, supporting planning scheme and making sure that we can keep fast food, convenience restaurants out of this town. I think they're a real delight. And there are just so many things. Well, there's very little in favour of, I think. I strongly support that heritage facility at the station precinct, and it's good to see the Shire looking for grants there. I urge them to keep that up. The other thing is Rural Roads Victoria, I think, and I know the Mayor has signed a letter with the Benalla Mayor on the upgrade of this Benalla Mansfield Road. It's very dangerous in parts, and if you watch two B doubles going either way, they're just about touching mirrors, and it needs a 1 metre pavement either side all the way between Mansfield and Benalla. I must declare a genuine interest there because I live on the Midland Highway. And the other two areas are IT upgrades. People would come to me and say they find it a bit difficult to navigate the Shire website. And the other thing, and I'm sure the council are well aware of it, is the parking issue. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. Before I hand over to council for questions, sorry, Tony, I should have warned you before that we're just going to give a bell at 2 minutes. Every 2 minutes is part of the presentation, so I apologise for not giving you the warning before.
That's all right.
So it's just to give you a warning of that. So no, we've got some questions, though, I think. Thank you. Councillors, any questions?
No, I don't have any.
That's right. That's right.
No, thank you for coming.
Good.
No problem.
Thanks, Tony. The next presentation is from Tom Conner. Tom, and as we said before, there'll be a bell at 2 minutes and then the bell at 3 minutes as well. So, Hagen has given that most of us have read your report, your submission.
Don't start. I have copies of what I'm going to say to you people afterwards, but 8 or 9 copies. It's a lot longer than what I'm going to say in the copies, but it's more reading. The topics that I'll say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, staff of this show. What I'm going to talk about today is really the cause for aged care being managed within the Shire and not outsourced. In the 2016 census, Mansfield population is one of the oldest in the state. I don't see that changing. I don't see millions of young people moving into Mansfield. Mansfield population is 30.3% over the age of 60. The big state average is 22% and across Australia 24%. So we're way ahead of the curve. Mansfield budget, out of its $100 circle, spend on youth, family and aged care is $4.55 out of everything. Spends on parks and government, parks and gardens is $5.84. So flowers and trees are more important than people. Aged care is care outside of paid residential. Now we have a lot of that in Mansfield already. What is the Shire planning? Do they know how many residents are on NDIS who are on my aged care plans? What is the council budget for my aged care services? And who are the external providers here, if any? What services are provided outside of the town of Mansfield, given that 50% of the population live outside of Mansfield? What importance does the Shire place on community centres, now and in the future? Workforce in the aged care business. Attendees at the recent aged care focus group in Bonnie Doon said that they have little trust and view with suspicion the outsourcing of those activities to a for-profit organisation. They want the services to be local our people, our care, and the establishment of a sound system that allows people to stay in their own homes is not only practical, but morally correct. In the case of boosted employment, investment in the caring sector also better delivers on women's economic security with workforces that are around 80% female. It need not be a cost centre to the Shire. Mansfield Shire is a retirement zone, and that's not going to change. More and more people are going to leave the leafy greens of Pauline and move to Mansfield or surrounding area. Given that there is a history of older retirees moving to green change, will Mansfield 2040 further consider implications the emerging narrative to establish? Okay. We are looking for solutions that are vainly practical and not sophisticated. Let's move on now to understanding outlying areas. Over 50% of the Shire population live outside Mansfield. Pepin Point is still not recognised as an area, but it should be. We have post boxes at Pepin Point, but Maitland has a postcode that has no post boxes. The 50,000 budget is totally unrealistic to support the services and lifestyle that the majority of the Shire's residents require. Budget needs to be revisited and greater emphasis given to outlying areas. The proposed 1.5 million spent on the tourist station could be better spent on facilities in all towns and regions. Finally, let's review the locations of emergency services within the outlying area, particularly fire and ambulance. Our area, it takes over 40 minutes for a fire station, a fire truck to get from Bonnie. Not good enough. After all, the Shire collects the money from the fire services levy. Maybe they should be putting pressure back on the CFA to rethink their attitudes. Pepin Hub is moving with Golden Murray Water approving its expression of interest into land at Mitchell Bay. We support the Lake Hilton Master Plan. Overall, I support this plan budget, but with the proviso that the required rate increases carried through. That's the 1.5, and it means $30 for the average property. Yeah, that's $2 a wine. So it's half a pack of cigarettes, nothing. And the improved finance has been used for the betterment of society to improve health and welfare services. And you don't have to be poor to need health and welfare services. There's a lot of people in our Shire that will need them. And a much expanded role in increasing the services to the majority of residents living in outlying communities. I'll give you a couple of other things to read from here. There's one from Hugh Mackay, who I work with. He's Australia's foremost futurist and general social commentator. He helped us run a change management program at Foster's back in the late 80s, and we certainly changed our business. And then there's an article today from The Age that is very relevant to health services.
Yeah, I think so, Tom. Yeah. Well, just what's the title of the article as well?
Sorry?
What's the title of the article? Yes.
From the paper?
Yeah.
The bright young things have lost interest, but there's more to say on one of the budget's very big deals, and it is all about aged care. And it's an area that possibly we're going to need to increase more employment in the Shire with the right people. You need the right people to lead this. Yeah, and $30 to me paying an extra rates, it's incidental. I still smoke, so a packet of cigarettes is $55, $30 is nothing.
Yeah, understand.
Okay.
Councillor, any questions?
I've got one. Tom, where do you get the $30 from?
Well, I don't pay $2,000 at rates. 1.5% is about $30.
Oh, that's averaged over everything.
Yeah. That's an average one. it would be more for farmers. I don't have a problem if you're redirecting your attention to the fact that farmers are paying far too much. But they're possibly the only people in the Shire who are. I know. We moved up here 20 years ago. We were paying $2,500 rates in Alton 20 years ago. We're not paying $2,000 at the moment up here. So I don't feel that the rates here are encumbrance of what I'm trying to do. We're retired. We are pensioners, believe it or not. We survive very well.
Justin,
Yeah, thanks for your presentation, Tom.
Good.
And just getting back to your first, I guess your main point is the aged care. You expressed a concern that you didn't want it put out to any old public institution because you drop in services.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's a very important point, and as you know, the Shire are about to undertake we've already started an aged care review, and that's one of the highest priorities that was put forward to the consultants when they were sent out to produce a report. That was the priority.
I think those consultants were quite amazed with the response they got, albeit from a very small group of people joining it. But it was total. We need it. We don't want to involve full pay people. There's not a lot of trust in privatisation in any organisation these days. We don't need to privatise. There's an article in there this thing today that talks about some of the things that can happen.
thanks,
I'm
Tom.
just stupid, I'll give you a copy.
That's fine.
Come back here to the lady.
Thanks, Tom, for that.
You're absolutely welcome, and congratulations, Charlie. I think you're doing well for yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, today's paper, I'll give you a copy. You didn't get one.
Thank you. Next deputation is from Wes Nudge on behalf of the DBA. Thanks, Wes. And thanks again, Tom. Thank you.
There's a few good ones. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to make this submission on behalf of the Mansfield Shire Association units. Firstly, our key issue is with the zero rate increase as the proposal stands. Our member survey in response has indicated 60% do not agree with this decision. The increased rate of 1 to 1.5 is what was preferred. No. The feeling is the members is that the average rate increase of a 1.5 percentage rate increase would be $24 per average property. And our members feel that increased revenue for the Shire would be better utilised by the Shire to invest in services and facilities. The result of not increasing the rates by the 1.5 indicates roughly $190,000 loss in revenue on an annual basis, which leads to $2.2 million over a 10-year forecast. The Shire's capability to maintain living standards, which could impact on future land value, business confidence, and employment within the Shire. The Shire's the proposed 0% rate increase concern with members is in the leadership of the future strategies of the Shire around these matters and the infrastructure and investment in the development of the Shire. Concerns have also been raised around the different rating strategy, with our survey responses from members indicating that 70% are against the change in this proposed in the budget, with a greater burden being placed on the commercial properties and also residential, with a view that the increase in the discount increasing discount to rating other commercial properties, being the farming sector, should be reconsidered. And the fact that the economic so further concern is raised around differential rating strategy in the fact that there is a request for a review of the commercial areas, particularly being in around accommodation businesses, the Airbnb supply in the town, and also commercial lifestyle businesses and gyms, making sure that those that are operating at residential premises contribute to the overall rating, the community benefit through rating. 70% of members' responses requested no change to the differential rating strategy. Finally, the heavy vehicle alternative road and its completion. Concern was raised around the Shire's inability to complete the heavy vehicle alternative road in full, particularly the 400 metres of gravel road in this lane, and asked whether or not this is a consequence of the proposed 0% rate increase. Concern also is in regards to potential cost blowouts and the potential this could lead to greater jet funding, and with a view that if a rate increase was obtained, it would assist in actually covering those. The position is members are not indicating not to do the project, they actually are in support of the project, however they wish to see the project be funded and done in whole. Our submission on behalf of members, we ask the councillors to reconsider the 0% rate increase proposal and not adopt changes in the rating differential strategy outlined in the proposed budget, and provide leadership on this to the community for the interest of the community. Thank you on behalf of our members for the Mansfield District Business Association and the time to present the submission. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Wes. Thank you. Councillor.
No questions from members.
How many members have you got?
How many members? Just shy of 100.
100. And how many responded to your survey?
On numbers, was it roughly 30%? So in the vicinity of roughly 30.
30 people. And how did you come to the conclusion that council is not going to fund and do the project heavy vehicle bypass? How did you come to the conclusion that we weren't going to do the whole?
By responses I received by requesting information from management.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, when you contacted your members, Wes, for this survey, what information, other information did you supply them with for them to be able to come to the conclusions they did about differential rates and the 0% rate increase?
We have provided a paper to our members on the current budget proposal. But ultimately, the survey went out before the paper was provided, so those responses were coming in prior to providing it.
Okay. I'm just wondering that that paper that you did put out to your members, did it include the table of 4.1.1C of the rate increases in the Shire? No.
So when you're saying 4.1 out of the council's budget you're referring to, or
Yes.
the document?
Yeah. It calculates the total rate increases for each category.
To be honest, I can't give you an answer. No, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we can come back. Yeah. So you're talking at dollar terms, or you're talking
Just no percentage increase per category.
per category of the differential rating strategy? There was an excerpt from the proposed budget that was provided in that, yes.
Okay. So is it that table?
Well, I don't know exactly if it was that table, because I don't know, I need a copy of that to reference that against.
Sure. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Just one more. Where's Question 2 in your submission, for the 70% of the rate rise ranged from 1% to 1.5%. I'm a bit confused where the 70% were. Question 2 is the response to the survey. Okay, the 70% of people responded to the survey, or
The responses, 7% of the responses to the survey.
yes. Okay, so they would have been out of the 60% that were against the proposed rate decrease in question 1. That'd be right. So it'd be 70% of the 60%. That'd be correct. Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. That's it. I'll clarify that. Thank you.
Was it just out of interest, is there any reason why you didn't put the document that you presented to the members of the NBBA as part of your submission? If I'm reading correctly, the only part of the submission I got was just a one page, which was a survey.
Okay. No, it should have, when it was submitted, endeavoured to submit through the portal, was lodged through the portal. That was the intention, the entire paper. So whether it was a formatting issue or something along those lines.
Because you guys got a submission part of the survey?
No, the only submission I got was the three. The points, three questions.
Survey
Page,
questions.
Which I thought was an unusual
Okay.
submission for you, because I know how detailed you are, so
Yeah, no, okay. Well, my understanding was that what was lodged in the submission was the actual paper.
are you able to send us that?
Absolutely.
Because it made it hard to work out where you're coming from when we just saw the survey results.
Right.
Well, for me anyway.
Well, so you received survey results or the survey?
No, just a survey result. One page which has got question 1 and the answer, and question 2 and the answer, and question 3. That's all.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, I'll get provided with a copy of the document.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, no more questions, Councillor? Thanks, please. Yeah, thank you. Very good, thank you. Our last speaker is Will, with progress. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, I've got a bit of a presentation there, but I've also got a hard copy for the council. I'll just talk about changes in our society and then the macro and micro economy to the way the budget looks to me. So there are big changes happening in society. Population movement from Melbourne, housing shortage, increased trend on purchase prices. We've got labour shortages, especially in hospitality and agriculture, affecting small business. As economically disadvantaged residents who can't afford to live here, quite a few of them are, or have increased need for services. So the people who are most at risk there are the young, disabled, pensioners and single women. And those most at risk in our changing community are rentals, not ratepayers. So let's have the next slide. These changes are caused by macroeconomic factors that are beyond council's control. So council won't be able to control those things. But the services that I worry about are a bit similar to time, age and disability. That's been looked into before. It's not going to work to privatise it. So it'd be good to see what the outcome of the inquiry is. Youth services, which always come under scrutiny if the budget gets stretched. Small towns projects support its tough capacity. So I'll just look at the macro economy, if that's all right. So if you look at taxation in Australia, they're the figures, 2019-20. It's almost all federal and state, with LGRs being only a very small percentage, about 4%. So any movement in local rates is actually meaningless in terms of the taxation base. And if you actually look at the rise over the last 5 years, you can see that most of them have risen 4 or 5%, and it's the same. So really, movement in local government rates is devaluing local government. I mean, really even what happened in the state budget last week is going to have a much bigger impact on people's bottom line. We shouldn't devalue local government in favour of the state and the federal government, because our job is to keep local government strong. I hope the next slide. So the microeconomic data shows similar stories. Since the DNA election, Mansfield has been a low rate of 5. So no logic in making it even lower. Just have the next couple of slides. So our rates are lower than neighbouring shires with similar service and infrastructure need. You can see them there. It's all pretty straightforward. You know where those other places are. Can I have the next slide? And compared to rural cities, they're very low. And you can see the rationale for deamalgamation actually in one slide. Now, you might think that that's, or it might be said that that's because of high land values, but the facts actually don't support that view. We'll have the next slide. So, average rate per property assessment, and this is where the the $20 or $25 comes from. The average sort of rate in Mansfield's 1,500, so 1.5% of that is about $23. But you see that the average rate per property assessment in other shires is much higher. So, benchmarking, we're not benchmarking with other shires, we're falling behind. And there's actually no logic to that. So can I move to the next slide? So, and you see, beside rural cities, we're even further behind. We are further behind, and we're going to fall further behind if you do what you say you're going to do. It's crazy, to be honest. It's absolutely crazy. So, can I just have the next slide? So, rapid social change will see a rapidly evolving upward pressure on council services, failure to maintain revenue base, pressure on future budgets, and this will compromise future councils, not just this council, but councils in the future, because those compounding things into $2 million at 5 years are going to get worse and worse as time goes on if we don't move by 1.5% now. And the macroeconomic and microeconomic analysis just show that there's no actual rationale for doing that. And then there's just a brief thing about the commercial rates there. I don't really have a problem. As long as you benchmark differentials to other shires, I think that we're doing extremely fine. So freezing rates may seem popular. It's not popular. It's 3-1 against this in the forum, but the macro and microeconomic analysis shows that the rate freeze as structured in the budget has no underpinning economic logic, doesn't help in meeting target in any meaningful way, and the analysis of social trends indicates that freezing rates will lead to future services to vulnerable sections of our community being compromised. Current economic impacts are predominantly on renters, not on ratepayers. That's where the stress is, and the stress is in the commercial sector. So I just don't follow the budget from that point of view. I support the overall direction of the budget, but the rate freeze doesn't make any sense. So the groups I'm worried about in this budget impacting the future are the elderly, disabled, youth and single women. Disabled to some extent covered now by NDIS, but the other groups are going to suffer. And I'm worried about future councils' ability to continue to fulfil their social contract, which is what local government is. It's a social contract. So there's my view about it. It's a pretty global view. I'm not thinking any particular part of the budget. It's just saying, not moving towards what other shires are doing just doesn't make sense. We're going to fall behind. We're going to fall behind more and more if we continue to do this. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Councillor Singh, question?
No questions. Just thank you. Well, it was really the presentation, the data sources, presented in concise ways.
Well, I haven't got a question, but I've got an apology that's been written down as Mr.
Oh, no.
So,
I've only worn this by mistake, actually, but I have had my vaccination. That's that presentation.
Well, thanks for your letter as well. It's a really well presented letter, very clear and to the point.
No questions. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks. I understand.
Thanks, councillors.
Thank you. Councillors, I think there's no more deputations. What I'd like to do is move to a motion. Councillors, do we have a motion regarding the submission of budgets to consideration of submission of proposed budget 21-22, proposed revenue and rating plan 21-25?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor, thanks. I'd like to move that the Special Committee of Council, comprising all councillors, receive and consider submissions to the proposed budget 2021-22 and the proposed revenue and rating plan 2021 to 25. I'm not sure about the word all though. I think bar one.
Comprising, perhaps comprising all councillors. Well, the special committee actually comprises all councillors.
So just an apology to the
So maybe just remove comprising all councillors, it's not necessary. But the special committee of council receive and consider. That would be my recommendation.
Okay, so. Let's move on.
No, it's councillor T's moving the motion. I would just advise that comprising all councillors is removed.
Yeah, that's.
You want to read the recommendation?
Okay, I'll read the recommendation again. That special committee of council receive and consider the submissions to the proposed budget 2021-22 and the proposed revenue and rating plan 2021-25.
I have a second the motion. Councillor Webb. Would anyone like to speak to the motion?
Just really interesting reading a lot of these submissions. Very much a division around a couple of key topics, being the 0% rate increase, the revenue and rating strategy, are probably the key points. As I mentioned in our meeting when we set this out for public comment, certainly I'm interested, very interested to read what people's thoughts around 0% rate increase are around the differential strategy. So, in my view, I think it's come forward very clearly that there's a lot of question marks around those two points.
Thanks, Councillor Webb. Anyone else? Councillor Webb.
Yeah, I'd like to express, I suppose, my surprise that there weren't more submissions, given the amount of work that councillors and officers putting this out into the community. I was surprised that there were fewer than I thought. I thought we only had hundreds. But having said that, I am thankful that people that have given the submissions stand by them, and some have come to speak to us today.
Councillor Tim, thanks. Councillor Webb. Councillor Tim, we can move the motion if you'd like to.
Nothing. Yeah.
If there's no other motion, those for the motion. Motion will pass. Councillors. The last item on the agenda is under the Community and Corporate Services Directorate, consideration of submissions for the councillor and mayor allowances. The responsible officer is the Coordinator of Governance and Risk, Michelle Kane. Councillor, do we have any questions or comments on this item?
Just one comment, and I guess just what it's stating in the paper. It says there was only one submission received, and I'm not sure who it was from, but I will read it out. It says, admirable of the councillors to keep their remuneration at last year's rate in line with keeping to their 0% rate rise. Well done and much appreciated. That would be my only comment. Sorry, did you hear that?
Hear you now. I suggest you get microphone.
We do. Sorry, not in here. I'll read it out again for the benefit of the gallery. Sorry. There was one submission received for the consideration of council and mayoral allowances, and that submission read, admirable of the councillors to keep their remuneration at last year's rate in line with keeping to their 0% rate rise. Well done and much appreciated. I'm not sure who wrote that submission.
Thanks, Councillor Tim. Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Webb?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A motion being that the Special Committee of Council receive and consider the submission of the councillor and mayoral ordinances.
Mr. Councillor Webb, that's any second? Councillor Riley?
Mr Mayor, that submission was moved by someone called Zach. Well, I've read the submission in the papers and the name is Zach. I don't know Zach who, but sorry,
Thanks, Will. That's your hands. Sure, they know who they are.
well, Zach is sort of a term for money, isn't it? So, isn't it worth Zach?
So Councillor Riley, you second it?
Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor? Any other second, Councillor Riley?
No.
Those in favour of the motion? Motion passed. Very much. On that note, meeting is closed, short and sweet. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in and presenting. Take your time to do that. It's much appreciated and always good to hear all sorts of views and feedback. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, executive. Thanks to those online who've been listening. Good afternoon.